It is a pleasure to welcome to the show Danny Hincks, starting goalie from Dartmouth right now. Doing really well, balling it up. Danny, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah, this is going to be tons of fun. I love chatting lacrosse goalie. Best hour of my day is when I can chat goalie for an hour. But before we get going, I would love to hear the story of your first save or the first time you jumped into goal. Do you remember that?
Yeah, back in probably sixth grade, I hated wearing elbow pads. They're all clunky and I had these big ones, so I shed them and hopped in net. I had two older brothers who were attackmen, so they always liked to shoot on me too. So hopped in net, found a little bit of success, not too much, probably got shredded a little bit, but yeah, I started to love the position from a young age, kind of the leadership and exhilaration you feel in the cage.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you're one of the older sibling needs someone to shoot on type of goalies, huh?
Got it. Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so common with the older brother, like throw the younger kid in goal. I'm like, hey, I need somebody to shoot on. And I bet you had some pretty epic battles with them, huh? In the backyard. Like where'd you guys grow up and how'd you go about kind of learning this position?
Absolutely. Yeah. I grew up just outside of Boston. Played for the Top Gun Fighting Clams, went to Belmont Hill School. And I know you had Josh Carson on the podcast last week, and he talked about kind of the Clams and how they do a good job of kind of making goalies. They got these coaches who played in college and really get the position and teach it really well. So from a young age, I had access to great coaches who taught the game well, kind of catered it to individual skill sets like mine, and kind of went from there.
Such an important thing to be a lacrosse goalie coach is what you just said there. Cater it to individual skill sets. Cause you're a big dude, right? And the way that you teach the position, some things that big goalies can do are different than what small goalies can do. Right. And so you really got to tailor it to each kid. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think it's definitely an advantage if you use it the right way. Especially in tight, there's certain things you can do with your body that smaller guys may not necessarily be able to do. So yeah, teaching that to other big goalies, tall goalies is something I enjoy doing. And yeah, definitely personalized.
Yeah. I love it. The Fighting Clams, that's a great name.
Yep.
little mini goalie school, pumping out collegiate goalies left and right. I love it. What was it about the position, do you think, that attracted you so much? Or what's your favorite part about being a lacrosse goalie?
I would say, it's a blessing and a curse to have all the pressure on you in big moments. But when you make a doorstep save in the middle of the game, the fans are going crazy, your teammates are going crazy. It's really an exhilarating feeling, and you feel kind of invincible for a moment in time, and then when the next goal goes over your shoulder, you're back down to earth. But that feeling in the case, kind of having people depend on you and being able to back that up with some saves and good play is priceless.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm somebody that likes the spotlight. And you better, if you're a goalie, because you got the spotlight on you. And when you can, with that spotlight on you, make those doorstop saves or have a great game, or even just make like a save at the end of the game. Doesn't even matter. Like you can be getting scored on all game, but you make that save at the end of the game, the one that wins it. Oh man, is there a better feeling than that? Come on.
I haven't found one.
Yeah. And have you had walk-off saves? I think you have. Yeah.
This year against Vermont, I guess you could call it a save. There was a bouncer kind of trickling wide. I grabbed it with about 20 seconds left, and we ran the clock down. So
nice.
We'll count that.
Yeah, I'm counting it. That's awesome. So you mentioned or maybe I mentioned it, being a taller goalie. I'm curious, if you had to describe your style of goalie play, like what comes to mind?
Yeah, I'd say it's changed during my time in college. I used to be super aggressive, pretty high arc, and try to cut those angles down. But I ran into some trouble when teams would move the ball side to side really well, and I'd find myself out of position.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say I've kind of moved my arc back a little bit, gotten a little flatter, tried to take up more cage. But I think the main part of my game, which I pride myself on, is being able to get down to low shots. When you see a tall goalie, usually you'd think, hey, let's shoot low. He's not gonna be able to get down to it. But I think I do a pretty good job of kind of covering each corner of the cage and kind of making you beat me instead of just putting one in the low corner and having that go. So
yeah, the website has you listed at 6'5". Are you padding it by an inch there? Or is that a real height?
I think that's pretty accurate. I made him in padding freshman year, but
I did. I'm 5'8", so I think the program had me at 5'10". So I know. All right. So big dude, but yeah, you're right. Like a lot of times you see a goalie that's that big and the first thought is what? We can beat that guy low. And that's cool to hear that, you sort of pride yourself on that. Is it, when we talk about the technique of you making low saves, do you drop to the knees and kind of get the body behind it, or how do you attack the low shots?
yeah, I try to get as much of my body behind the ball as I can. So whether that's going down on your knees, going into like a mini split, or any of those type of things. I think being a big goalie allows you to get your body behind the ball better than maybe a small goalie would be able to do. So yeah, I mean, I think the lead step, drive step, kind of what we were taught as kids, that first step and bring the second step has faded away a little bit. And kind of get your whole body behind the ball, however you can is kind of what I subscribe to.
Yeah. Did you ever hear like some talk from, I don't know, parents or other players, like being that big and being a goalie? Did you ever hear any like, what's that kid doing playing goalie? Why isn't he playing defense?
Yeah, I've heard it. I hit a pretty big growth spurt my sophomore year in high school. I was kind of just a chubby, average height kid, couldn't run too great, had some decent hands, but hit a growth spurt and then kind of changed my whole game. It just allowed me to move a little better, cover more cage, and yeah.
But never once thought about going to defense.
No, I would get blown right. I don't have the lateral quickness for that.
There you go. But did you play other sports besides lacrosse growing up?
Yep, I played hockey my whole life until senior year of high school. So I like to think I'm a little bit more of an athlete than just your average goalie, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Hockey to me is like, if I had to say of like, what are the best sports for lacrosse goalies to play outside of lacrosse? Hockey's right up there. Because like, you think about like the physicalness of skating. It's like exactly like, you're using your hips, you're using those glutes, right? It's like a lot of the same muscles. And then not to mention all the hand-eye coordination with the stick. So like, to me, that's a perfect fit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think any sport that kind of incorporates hand-eye coordination, especially, hockey and football and all that stuff translates over.
Yeah, it's true. You could pick out skills from each sport, but yeah, hockey is right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Were you a goalie in hockey? No, you played the field or the ice.
Yeah, I played forward. Tried to score some goals. I hopped in net and goalie in hockey one time and was over my head. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's so different. I mean, it's more like box goal. Like box goalie and ice hockey goalie are like pretty similar in that, like, you just it's all about angles and little movements to get in the way, as opposed to sort of lacrosse goalies. We use our stick to catch the ball and then get our body behind it, to as like a backup. But really, if there's a shot to your shoulder, you're not just poking the shoulder out, but hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to make a save. Yeah. Well, cool. Love it. So when did, how did your college recruiting process go, and kind of when did you, think about playing lacrosse at the D1 level?
Yeah, I had a pretty unique recruiting story. I didn't make the varsity team in my high school till sophomore year because there were two really great goalies who were seniors my freshman year. So that kind of delayed my process a little bit. And so it came my sophomore summer before the rule change. I was playing down at a Big Four Triple H tournament. And it's funny, I don't think there were any coaches on the sideline for this tournament, at least this game. And we played FCA, and we had the best game, the Clams, my team ever had. And we ended up taking down FCA. And there was a mom on the sideline of a Dartmouth commit on Team FCA and said, "Oh, that goalie for the Clams is pretty good." And my dad happened to be standing right next to her. And he said, "Oh, well, thank you. That's my son." And she asked where I was committed. And he said, "Nowhere." And she said, "Oh, well, I'll send the Dartmouth coach a text. This kid looks pretty good, and they need a goalie in the 2018 class." And he said, "Oh, that's awesome." And my mom actually went to Dartmouth. She was up here at the time for her reunion, and went up to the coach's tent where they're all kind of fundraising and stuff. Introduced herself, and Coach Callahan said, "Yeah, that's funny. I actually just got a text about your son from one of the recruits' parents." And she laughed, obviously thinking kind of it was a joke. But it was true. And the next week I went up to the prospect camp, played well, and got an offer pretty much the next day. So I went from having zero traction to being committed in about a week through this kind of crazy circumstance.
Wow. That's a cool story. And that's just
Yeah.
awesome to hear it could happen so fast. So like a lot of goalies start panicking when they don't get those offers, but know that like, hey, sometimes the universe just aligns, and
Yep.
there's a Dartmouth mom on the sideline watching you make a lot of saves, and that's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. So then given that story, I mean, there was no other schools in question. It was like I'm going to Dartmouth.
Yeah, I had no other offers at the time. My older brother played at Williams College.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of thinking that I was going to go along that NESCAC route because it was getting late at that time. But obviously spot opened up at Dartmouth. I got some other interest after I was committed, but I had no interest in flipping. I was happy with where I'm going, and I'm happy I stuck it out.
Yeah.
But at the time it was just Dartmouth.
Yeah. I love it. The Ivy Leagues are hard to get into. I mean, they're competitive, right? I don't know what the acceptance rate is, but it's not high. And do you have to get in on your own merits, or are you working your butt off in school, or to get in on your own merits, or did lacrosse help?
Yeah, it's a combination of lacrosse and your academics. There's some sort of kind of baseline I think you have to be above, and then your recruiting class averages out to some score. I don't know how it's calculated, but it's a combination of your SATs and your grades. And so if you have some really smart kid in your recruiting class, you can take a kid who maybe has a lower GPA. So it's all averaged out in that sense.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. So they look at the entire recruiting class and say, this recruiting class needs to have, I don't know, 3.8 GPA average.
Yeah.
And so if you got someone with the 4.0, you could have a 3.7 or 3.5 and get in or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's
It's
awesome.
all it's in the Ivy League either.
Now, were you pulling the group up, or were you pulling the group down?
I think it was right in the middle.
Right in the middle. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. No, I want to emphasize the importance of the classroom, because I don't think we talk about it enough, but like, hey, if you're going to go to a lot of these schools, like you got to work your butt off in the classroom. And it sounds like you did that as well.
Yeah. It's a big component of recruiting for sure.
Yeah. What do you study at Dartmouth? Just curious.
So I'm a government modified major. It's technically called politics, philosophy, and economics. It's kind of a hybrid type thing. I started off just as econ and kind of wanted a little bit more, little bit different. And I kind of finally decided on this major.
That's interesting. I don't know if I've heard it's not that common at other schools, right? Yeah. Like that combination.
Yeah, it's a new major, and it's gotten pretty hot at Dartmouth. So
yeah,
like it.
Yeah. Well, cool. So you get to Dartmouth. I guess before that, you mentioned getting some coaching with the Clams. What else? Where else did you get coaching, or were there at that point college goalies or pro goalies that you kind of watch play and learn from?
Yeah, I think the summer going into my senior year of high school, I went down to a Net Nation camp. And met Drew Adams, Brian Doherty, all those guys. And it was probably, no more than 40 goalies at the camp. And there were 15 to 20 college goalies and pro goalies. So it was awesome kind of getting to know these guys. I formed a little bit of a relationship with Drew Adams. So I would say he's kind of a mentor to me. I texted him a little bit. He was an awesome guy, more than willing to help in my recruiting process. And I really appreciated that. But yeah, I mean, tons of goalies, John Galloway, Jack Kelly, a lot of goalies just that I've watched and really looked up to.
Yeah. I've had all those guys on the podcast, and the cool part is like, they're just such good dudes. In addition to being great goalies, like you said, I had Drew Adams on. Jack Kelly's awesome. I don't know if you ever get a chance to speak with him, definitely do it. He's such a cool dude. Yeah. So, all right. Well, cool. So then you get to Dartmouth, and you had mentioned at that point, your lacrosse goalie game changed. Like I used to do a little bit of maybe a mid arc, come out a little bit. Now, like, this game's so fast. I'm going to play back on the arc. Is that like, how did that go down? How did that evolve?
Yeah. So the head coach here at Dartmouth, Coach Callahan, was a goalie at Stony Brook, and it was probably 15, 20 years ago. He really knows his stuff. And kind of his usual prototype of recruiting goalies is a smaller guy. So he was interested to have a project in me, a big guy who's kind of raw. And but yeah, I mean, he taught me a lot about positioning in the net and kind of how to cut down angles, when to cut down angles. And I would come in the fall, my freshman year, and just be feet on the top of the crease when a kid would be coming up the hash. And he was quick to cut that down and tell me to stay a little bit back in the cage. But yeah, he lets me play, my sort of style, combined with what he sees, best fit for me. So
yeah,
that was the process.
Yeah, I love it. What does your goalie training regiment look like? Is there a lot of shots? Are there specific drills that you like to do?
Yeah, definitely seeing shots every day in season, with the exception of Sunday. And then we do a lot of hand speed, foot speed, and positioning. You cover all the big things there. But we have the goalies here usually have about a 20-minute segment in practice every day to cover whatever we need as a group, and whether that's hand speed, ball toss, positioning in the net, or kind of hitting the ladders, whatever we need that day is what we'll get done. So it's a good combination of many things.
Yeah, love it. Any unconventional things that you do that you'd say have had a really positive impact on your goalie game?
Yeah, I in high school I had a cage in my backyard, and I would go out and I would actually shoot all the time. I really love shooting lax balls on the cage, and I started to think like a shooter a little bit. And I think that's helped me read shooters and kind of understand situations, and as the goalie Smith guys call it, read them and beat them. Mm-hmm. I think shooting not only kind of developed how I control the stick in my hands, but thinking how the shooter thinks, which is huge as a goalie, in my opinion.
Yeah, and just kind of knowing like when they're at specific spots on the field, like what is an easier shot, or what the goalie's given. Yeah, I got a goal in my backyard. I ripped some corners, Danny. I'm not gonna lie. I've been known to tear some corners apart.
I remember that.
Yeah. Have you ever scored a goal as a goalie?
I am not outdoor. We had in high school, we would play in hockey rinks with turf on them, and I scored a little bit in there, but I'm not going to count
that. All right, I never scored either, so we got 0 game goals in between us here. Cool. So I imagine your your freshman year, you started getting the starts, yeah, like right away.
Yep, my first game freshman year, we had a really good goalie who was a junior. And I came in not really kind of expecting too much. And the day before our first game, my freshman year, the coach announced that I'd be starting, and I was kind of like, whoa, got ready for it. And it was funny, the first game at BU, I'm from Boston, as I mentioned before. I had all my family there. 5 seconds into the game, they go fast break off the face off, hit the pipe goal. This is gonna be a long career. And
of course they do, right?
Yeah, it was an eye-opening experience to start my career. But,
yeah. That is interesting. So I was going to ask you a question about being a backup, but it sounds like you haven't had that experience at Dartmouth, but maybe at high school you did. It's often a tricky situation for goalies. There's only one of us that plays, right? And so how do you remain positive while you're not getting the starts or not even like maybe the reps with the ones?
Yeah, in my experience as a goalie, my teammates and I have always had great relationships, in my opinion. I think goalies in general understand that only one guy's going to play, and that, you got to do what's best for the team, and working your butt off if you're the backup is what is best for the team, and pushing the guy in front of you is what is best for the team. So a competitive environment's always a good thing, as long as you kind of handle it the right way, I think. But yeah, pushing the guy in front of you, pushing the guy behind you, kind of having this, like, you'd say symbiotic relationship in the goalie room is a great thing.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree with that. I was talking with Josh Kirsten, who and he said, yeah, the times where I wasn't being pushed by the backup, like maybe you have one backup on your team and you're like miles ahead of him, so there's not a lot of competition there. And those scenarios actually didn't play as well because you don't have that, that backup kind of nipping at your heels, like pushing you to get better. And so, yeah, and that's what I found as well. Like most goalie rooms or goalie squads, like, it's there's competition there, but at the end of the day, like you're all rooting for each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You guys got 2 other goalies. Like how many goalies do you have on your team right now?
Yeah, we got 3 keepers. We got a freshman and a sophomore, and me. So yeah. And
you are a junior?
I'm a senior.
Senior with yeah, but I guess with the COVID, but Ivy Leagues can't play. Grad students in the Ivy League can't play. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very complicated thing. There are ways to kind of extend your graduation, without getting any graduate degree, and some people choose to do that.
You think you're going to do that, or is this the last year?
I'm in the graduate transfer portal. I'm just kind of finally making my decision in the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Cool. Well, good luck with that. I was hoping we could announce something, an exclusive on the Lax Goalie Rap podcast, but maybe we'll wait for that.
I'll let you know when I make my decision.
All right. Well, good luck to you. It's an interesting thing when you go into the portal, because I mean, it's essentially like the recruiting process all over again, right?
Yeah, it was, as I mentioned, I didn't have, all this attention in my initial recruiting process. So, going through this, the second time as I was kind of established myself a little bit as a goalie, was fun to see. Got a lot of cool calls, got to talk to a lot of coaches I really respect, and it's been a great experience.
Yeah. Awesome. Switching gears a little bit about the mental game, right? Like it's so important for lacrosse goalies to be mentally tough. When I say mental toughness, like what comes to mind for you, and how do you go about like building up your mental game, or exercises you do, things that come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think that every goalie obviously wants to be confident in the net, right? But it's easier said than done. When you're playing a really good game, everything's firing, it feels like nothing's going to go in the net. But on the other hand, sometimes it feels like, no matter what gets put on cage, it's a battle to save everything. So I think kind of not getting too high or not getting too low. It's kind of a cliche, but kind of staying the course in net, resetting yourself after a goal, maybe letting the adrenaline go a little bit after a save to keep that going, is a big part. But I wouldn't say I do any specific, mental exercises other than trying to stay relaxed, in cage.
Mm-hmm. How do you reset yourself after a goal? Ball goes over your shoulder. you know it's a goal. You hear the other team cheering. It's an intense moment for lacrosse goalies. How do you go about resetting yourself? Is there some sort of routine that you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the team. We do the huddle like every other team does, and we kind of break down what happened. So from a defensive standpoint, that's how I reset. And from a goalie shot seeing perspective, sometimes I'll kind of redo that motion that I just missed, right after the ball goes and they're kind of starting the face off, or just take a sip of water, take a walk around the cage, and just get right back into it.
That's awesome. I just had someone on the podcast and they said that they'll do that motion. Like, so if you let in an off stick high goal, right, then you make that save motion, right, and get right back into it. And it reminded me, like, I played a lot of tennis. See a lot of tennis players do that, where like you'll hit a forehand into the net, and then they'll be like, just do the motion again to build that muscle memory back up. I love that.
Yeah,
love that. What would be an example of something you'd say in the huddle, in that little defensive huddle?
We have kind of different roles, I would say, on our defense. There's some motivators, some kind of guys who keep the team on course. And I would say I'm one of the guys who kind of keeps the conversations relaxed and kind of trying to find, a path forward without, yelling at each other. So, sometimes it'll be, hey, we need a roll from the pipe there. We need to snap out from the crease. We need the 2 slide, whatever that may be. Just trying to communicate that, in a sense that's, constructive instead of emotionally charged, especially when you have younger guys on your team. I think is very useful.
Yeah, love that. Love that concept of different roles. Cause I mean, sometimes it is very technical. Like, we need to get the slide earlier on 22. We need to do this. We need to do that. Other times the message is like, guys, let's go. Come on. Like, let's pick it up. Who is that? Who is the guy on your team who delivers that message?
I would say our captain, Peter Rizzotti. He's a defenseman. He likes to play the bad cop. He brings a lot of energy. And I'd say we complement each other pretty well on the field in that sense. But he's a great team, great leader.
Yeah, love it. Danny, if you had to go back and give the high school you some goalie advice, what would that be?
Wow. I mean, I would say, aside from kind of the specific things that I've changed about my game, to just keep loving the position, stay the course. Yeah, I don't know. I've liked my process the way it's gone, to be, frank with you. Yeah, it's a funny question. I haven't really thought too much about.
All right, give it some thought tonight.
There have been some highs and lows in my college career, that's for sure. So, coming in freshman year, being 2-11 on a team that battled, but didn't see too much success was definitely a struggle for me. But yeah, in that sense, I would probably tell myself, keep with it, keep grinding, and we'll come out the other side a lot better. So
yeah, love it. The 2020 season was canceled, obviously COVID, right? It threw a wrench in everyone's life, but especially, as a college athlete, when the time is so limited, right? You only get 4 years or maybe 5, but like, it's a very small time, and like, boom, one of those is gone. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, so we actually had, so I'll backtrack a little bit. My sophomore year was the season that we had started and weren't able to finish. So we started off 3-1. We were kind of changing the program around a little bit. We had eclipsed our season high of wins from last year in 4 games. So we were off to a hot start. And we're heading down to, I think, UNC the week that COVID canceled everything. And so that season was crazy. All of college lacrosse wasn't able to play. That was a downtime. And then the next year, just the Ivy League was not able to play. So that was a little bit more of a kind of a dagger, because I was watching, my high school. I was watching high schools in the area play, and I was thinking, why can't we just get out there? It's not too
Right.
complicated. But yeah, I mean, I think the media has been keen on noticing how the Ivy Leagues have come back this year. There's a lot of hunger, a lot of desire to be back out on the field, which I think is translated into wins. But yeah, I mean, it was a really down time. We had to find kind of other things to do other than compete. You know, find that competitive outlet and other things, which was tough to do.
Yeah, I imagine. Totally agree about your media comment. I mean, I follow a lot of lacrosse. I guess I'm part of the media, not in any sort of official way, but I watch a lot of lacrosse, especially goalies. And it's just like, you know, having not seen the Ivy Leagues for 2 full years, you just forget about it. I mean, it's just kind of natural human instinct. Like when you haven't seen something, it's not top of mind. And now all of a sudden, like the Ivy Leagues, I mean, there's some amazing competition and some great games, and I'm so glad they're back.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an absolute gauntlet going in.
Right.
We're the team that every single week we play will be a ranked opponent in league, and then we're the one team receiving votes on the outside. But you know,
yeah, well, let's go run the gauntlet, baby. Run the gauntlet.
Yeah.
When was the last time Dartmouth made the tournament? Finals tournament?
I don't know. Not since I've been.
It's been a while. I had an old Dartmouth goalie on the podcast, and he made the tournament. Goldstein. What's his first name?
That was mid 2000s.
Yeah, 2003. I want to say. Andrew Goldstein. He was an awesome guy. Anyway, okay. So big game coming up this weekend, right? It's the start of Ivy League play. You're going to Cambridge, Mass. Is that, I have no idea. Is that close to Boston? Is it like a homecoming type of scenario?
Yeah, it is. I grew up 15 minutes from Harvard. So it's definitely homecoming for me. I have a lot of friends and family coming. The venue is going to be awesome. I'm super excited. I think the big thing for our team is to get pumped up for the game, but also recognize that it's another game. We just played at Ohio State in the Horseshoe, and that was also a really cool experience. And we came out ready to go, but I think in the second half we let it slip from us a little bit, maybe due to the fact that we weren't totally used to being in that type of situation. So just recognizing it's another game, first Ivy League game, super excited, but kind of treating it the same way we do all the others is kind of our process.
Yeah. When you say being in that situation, you mean like playing in such an iconic stadium and kind of like the big game atmosphere?
Yeah, I think that was part of it. We came out firing it, and I think everyone wanted to win so bad they were trying to make plays on their own and got away from kind of the team ball concept.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot kind of little things on defense. I was, certain things in net. But yeah, I mean, the desire to win is certainly there. And sometimes in the big moments, it's maybe even a little too much. So you're moving away from team concepts. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, or I'm not saying that's what's happened on Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're ready to go for Saturday. That's for sure.
Love it. That's what I love to hear. What do you do like when you go through a cold streak? I mean, or a slump? I'm sure it's happened in your career. It kind of happens to all goalies. I had one guy on, he's like, yeah, it happens to me 3 times a game. But what do you do in those moments to get out of it?
Yeah. I'm a type of goalie who kind of fiddles with things a lot. I know certain goalies, will go 4 years without changing a single thing in their stance and how they play, but I'm always kind of changing things no matter if I'm playing well or poorly. So maybe that's, if I'm in a cold streak, I'll drop my hands an inch and just see if that feels a little bit more comfortable, opens up something in my stance. Maybe I'll stand a little bit taller. Maybe I'll sit a little bit lower. But yeah, I think being adaptable in net certainly helps with kind of getting out of slumps, because you can get that confidence back. You're thinking, oh, okay, maybe I'm a little bit more comfortable in this position. And then that confidence comes back, and then the saves follow naturally.
Yeah. I love that. As well. I preach that quite a bit. And it's one of those things too, where it can help restore confidence in the sense that, if you lower your hands, right, and you're like, that doesn't feel right, I'm not making as many saves, like now you know with more certainty that like, all right, this is where my hands need to be for me to be the best goalie I can be.
Yeah.
Cool. What else have you tinkered with? I imagine being like 6'5", like there's like, you got to be in a sort of a deep squat, right? I mean, you don't have to, but like in order to sort of get your center of mass, like at the center of the goal, like you got to come down a little bit.
Yeah. A game my sophomore year against UMass Lowell, I'd say was a pretty good example of this. I started off the game in a, somewhat deep squat, and they were stinging them high on me. So I made an adjustment mid-game. I think they scored the first 3 shots on high. And so I got out of the squat a little bit. I was standing a little bit taller, sitting a little bit higher. And then our defense started to click, and we blanked them for 3 quarters. So just being able to change yourself as a goalie, the scout might say one thing, and then you're able to just totally change that mid-game. I think can mess with shooters' heads. That's another thing I pride myself on is kind of being able to adapt mid-game, make in-game kind of corrections when needed. Not saying I'm always doing that, because if you're playing well, you kind of want to stick to what you got. But, I mean, just fighting and doing whatever it takes at the end of the day.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. For those that have never been to the Dartmouth campus and the city, it is Hanover, New Hampshire. What's that like?
It's a small town. I think it's a typical New England town. There's a lot of skiing in the area, a lot of nature, people going on hikes all the time. There's not much of a town in Hanover. It's pretty much just the college and then kind of one main street with shops on it. But it's beautiful. It's an awesome campus. Love to go rollerblading around it, get outside and kind of feel the fresh air. But I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I watched that Vermont game. I did a save edit of that one. And it was like a trees all in there. Like you guys looks like you're in the forest.
Yeah. The backdrop of the Appalachian Trail is certainly unique to Dartmouth. We love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Well, cool. Any other good Dartmouth team stories I need to hear about?
Man, keeping it PG. I don't know. Nothing off the top of my head, but we had a
definitely keep it PG.
Yeah, great group of guys. Year in, year out. I think we have a great culture. Just guys looking out for each other is kind of the big thing here.
Cool. What is your you got like a specific pregame ritual that you always go through?
Yeah. Nothing too much in the hour leading up to the game. My big thing is I try to stay relaxed, whatever that means. And then probably 5 minutes before the game, I'll try to get amped up a little bit. And get the adrenaline going, kind of, exploding across the net, doing whatever it takes to, take a shot, whether it's in the stick or off the body. I'd say my one kind of pre-game tradition ritual is, when the goalies do the handshake down the chute and then run into the cage.
Oh yeah.
I run down, do a little bottle flip into the net, see if I can land it up flat. I've yet to get that. So the day I land it, I think it's going to be a pretty good day for me. So we'll see.
I love it. You're like, I landed it. Here we go, baby. Here we go.
Might as well call the game, right?
Yeah. Guys, chalk me up with 21 saves right now. I already know it's coming. What is your game high record? Do you know?
I think it was the 20 against Vermont.
Yeah, that was a great game. I'll link up to that save edit when this comes out. Yeah, it was awesome. Well, cool, Danny. Good luck. Man, you guys are going to start running the gauntlet on Saturday. I got the schedule here. You got Harvard, top 20 team, Cornell, and then Stony Brook. That's kind of a weird game, huh? Thrown in there.
Yeah, just a little Tuesday game. We were going to scrimmage them this fall, and that fell through, so we made it up in the spring. We're excited for that one. Yeah.
Then Yale, then Princeton, Penn, Brown, all great teams. So like you said, man, running the gauntlet. I love it. Quick question, stick setup. What do you go with on the stick?
Yeah, I run the SDX Shield, which I don't even think they make anymore. I was asking one of my assistant coaches who's in charge of equipment if I could get any of those, and he said, yeah, if you can find me one. And so I did some research and somehow found one online, but and then I used 12 diamond mesh. I think it's East Coast dyes, with a Warrior shaft. Our team's sponsored by Warrior, so I just try to get whatever the lightest shaft is.
Awesome. How does that work with the head? Like you're sponsored by Warrior, but you don't have to use their gear if you don't want to.
So, goalies and face-off guys, I think have an exemption because there's a limited selection there. I don't want to get in trouble with Warrior, but
yeah, no, Warrior's great. They're sponsoring an upcoming event I'm doing. So
yeah,
I love those guys.
It's I've always used the Shield my entire life, so I didn't feel the need to change it when I got to college.
Yeah. What do you like about the Shield?
I like the way it sits in your hand, kind of just the feel with that like little throat it has. I can get my hand wrapped around it pretty good and get good control of the stick head, I think.
Interesting. I've never used the Shield. Does it have the same like throat setup as the Eclipse II, or is it like a different? I don't know.
It's pretty similar.
Okay.
It's a little bit more narrow, I'd say. And it's a little bit thinner of a head and a little bit taller. It's kind of like the goalie stick over your top left shoulder, a little bigger, but yeah.
The big nasty?
Yeah.
So someone's got to bring, it's illegal now, but I remember when that thing came out and people were just like, are those wings? What is going on with that? You've seen that head, yeah?
I don't think so.
All right, hang on a second.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like I mean, just a collector's item at this point, but like Warrior came out with this head in 2000, I'm going to say 2002. And like, it has fins on it. Like there's little in the lower left, lower right, there's like a little piece of plastic, which not durable at all. It would probably take like 1-2 shots and this thing would break off. But I don't know, interesting concept. And I like how Warrior's kind of pushing the edge of what you can do lacrosse wise. And also is one of the first ones too, to have that grippable throat. Like this is a real nice, it's not as thin as what we were just talking about, but I mean, for coming out in the 2000s, it's a real nice, it's really nice. And you can kind of go up here if you want, or you can go here. I always set up touching the plastic. That was just my style, but it sounds like you like to actually grip it and get your hand as close to the head as possible.
Yeah, I like to get it right up there, up to the top.
Love it. Love it. Danny, like I said, hang on, put that stick down. Good luck in the upcoming season. If you had to leave the goalies out there with one final piece of advice, what would that be?
Yeah, just whatever it takes. Kind of be a great leader in cage. Have the defenseman in front of you really trust you, with your communication, with your leadership, and I think everything else will follow.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Coach.